morning, everybody. Good morning, it's JPR, and hopefully you're coming here off the heels of my Pokemon Colosseum retrospective, where I talked a lot about what made that game unique and challenging. And a big aspect of that video was double battles and how they were utilized in that game to create some very memorable challenges. And if you've been a subscriber for a while, or just someone who's seen my channel from time to time, then you should probably know that I am a big advocate of bringing difficulty back to Pokemon games, because I think in more recent generations, especially Gen 6 and 8, it's been a little bit lacking. And I commonly get 3 big responses from critics in the comments section. Number 1, you're just better at the game now than you were when you were a kid, and that is definitely a true statement. My knowledge of Pokemon has grown vastly in the 18 years that I've been playing it. Naturally, the game becomes easier over time when you have a mastery of its mechanics and systems. Number 2, Pokemon has never been a hard game. This is the one that I hear the most often, and I don't really think this one is entirely true. I touched on this one notably in my video on the importance of difficulty in Pokemon last year, where I said that Pokemon is a customizable experience, and depending on how you build your team, certain fights will be a breeze and others can be quite challenging. I also talked about how they've made battles objectively easier in recent generations by removing coverage attacks and items, among other things, from notable NPCs teams. And number 3, for Pokemon to become difficult, they need an entirely new battle system that overthrows the current turn-based format. This is another one that I disagree with, and it ties into the main point of this video, which is double battles. Now, I know it's a bit strange to proclaim that double battles are the future of Pokemon when they were introduced nearly 2 decades ago in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, and have been used as the official VGC format since 2009. I just believe that this is a criminally underused battle style in Pokemon, especially when it holds such competitive importance today. I've recently been replaying Pokemon Emerald on my own time, and whoo boy, that game actually has a lot of double battles. They don't overrun the single battles or anything, but it is by far the largest amount of double battles in any mainline Pokemon game. Like in Pokemon Colosseum, most of these double battles are nothing spectacular, though they are a welcome change of pace. But there is one particular fight that stands out, and yes, you guessed it, it's the 7th gym leaders, Liza and Tate. This fight is a great example of how many more strategies can be used in doubles than in single battles. This was my team going into the fight, and being completely honest, I got swept the first time around. Now I know I'm a couple levels beneath them, and this also isn't the world's greatest team, especially when fighting Psychic-type Pokemon, but keep in mind this is also Gen 3, when building a balanced team was still kind of a difficult task on its own, and they don't just blatantly hand you broken Pokemon during the main story, unless you think Castform is broken or something, in which case you're really good at this game. Even if I were equipped with Dark and Ghost types for this battle, most of them still weren't great at the time. Anyway, what I immediately noticed is the pairing of Xatu and Claydol as leads. This allows Claydol to freely Earthquake both of my Pokemon while taking no damage on their side. It's a very similar strategy to the Protect and Earthquake combination used by Takeem in Pokemon Colosseum that I discussed last week. On top of that, Solrock and Lunatone are also chilling in the back with Levitate, so if Xatu gets KO'd, it's no biggie for them. Also notice how Xatu carries Sunny Day to boost Solrock's Flamethrower, and of course, Charge Solar Beam faster. This also greatly hindered my team, which had 2 Surf users. And yes, it's Hoenn. If you do not have 2 Surf users, I don't know what you're doing out there. This meant I had to make a pretty crucial decision between using Fake Out on Claydol or Xatu, because both of them could do some pretty massive damage if they set up. Yes, I actually had to go back and teach Lombre Fake Out. I literally had to use a VGC strategy to win this fight. And this was not 15 years ago, this was 2 days ago. Well, at least when I wrote this script. I've actually been playing Xenoblade for the last week, but that's irrelevant. So for people who say the games are just easier now because I know more and the Pokemon games were never hard, I think that pretty well proves both of those statements wrong to a certain degree. I actually popped off after winning this battle. Even with a great strategy going in, it was still incredibly tense. And yeah, I could have done more. I could have ran a Pokemon with Rain Dance to make this battle significantly easier if I was a freaking Poindexter, but even then, that shows that you need to have more knowledge than just basic type matchups to win. I firmly believe that this is the hardest gym battle in Pokemon history. Move over, Whitney. And it's no coincidence that this was a double battle gym. And immediately after this fight is another extremely memorable double battle where you team up with Steven Stone to fight against Maxie and Tabitha. Why have they not tried doing anything like this again? This was so cool. Also, on a side note, I kid you not, Steven Skarmory used Toxic on my Heracross to activate his Guts ability. I was honestly flabbergasted at how advanced Steven's AI was. You would never see this happen in a modern Pokemon game. Though nowadays, Steven would probably get canceled for deliberately poisoning a teammate. It was a different time back then. Next, we're gonna take a look at Raihan from Pokemon Sword and Shield. Easily my favorite gym leader fight in the entire game because of the double battle aspect, and frankly, the only fight that I found to be somewhat challenging other than Leon, of course. Not on my first playthrough though, because I had Galarian Darmanitan. That doesn't count because the Pokemon is broken. What made Raihan's gym even cooler was the fact that it wasn't even a Dragon gym, it was a Weather gym, and that's really something they could only get away with in doubles. While I'm on the topic, I also think that type-based Pokemon gyms have outlived their usefulness, at least the ones where every Pokemon inside the gym has to be a certain type. Again, this is why I like Raihan's gym. Only half of his team consists of Dragon types, and even his gym trainers are more focused on manipulating the weather rather than sticking to the type. I wish they do this more often where gyms had secondary themes, like maybe one gym is a Psychic gym, but it also specializes in using other slow, non-Psychic type Pokemon and Trick Room together. Type-based gyms don't need to be completely eradicated, I just think that gyms shouldn't be as strict with typing as they are. Anyway, getting back to double battles, I was incredibly disappointed by how much easier the Raihan rematch of the Pokemon League felt because the single battle format ruined the viability of his team. Now, that wasn't the only factor. His regular gym team is completely built around Sandstorm, whereas this team is a weird tug of war between Sunlight, Rain, and Sandstorm. It's just not designed as well as his base team. But the singles format certainly didn't help with that. And to be quite honest, I'm really surprised that they didn't enforce double battles at the Galar Pokemon League. With this new tournament-style league, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to rope new players into the official VGC format. It also would have helped give the Galar League more of its own flair rather than just being mostly the same format as other Pokemon leagues. I mean, in the anime, it's not even called the Galar League, it's literally the Pokemon World Championships. But it doesn't even look like they used the double battle format in that either, despite being based on the real-life Pokemon World Championships. And if you ask me, the new Dynamax mechanic works so much better in doubles than it does in singles. There's a lot more strategy built around Dynamax in VGC, whereas in singles, it's basically a 3-turn nuke button until the other person uses theirs. It's not nearly as interesting. It's no secret that Pokemon World Championships has become more heavily promoted over the past few generations. It really seems like they want to make this a bigger deal with each passing year. And because of that, we keep getting these weird conflicting attitudes from the newer games. Some games like Black and White or Sun and Moon want to take you on this grand story adventure, whereas games like XY and Sword and Shield would rather rush you to the end game so you can start building competitive teams quicker. So the question is, why not integrate more aspects of the VGC format into the base game so that this weird conflict doesn't keep happening? Now, I'm not saying they should completely eradicate single battles like in Colosseum and XD, because single battles are often faster and are better for mindlessly passing the time while training up your team. But I do think that double battles should be used for almost every important fight in the game. Rival battles, gym battles, evil boss battles, anything that's important, make it a double battle. Not only do you subliminally teach newcomers how to strategize for the VGC format, but you'd also be making these battles more challenging and memorable in the process. At least if these guys had actual strategies like Raihan or Liza and Tate, or any of the bosses from Pokemon Colosseum for that matter. If you're gonna make these double battles and not integrate any strategies, then it's no better than what we have now, and I can't lie, I'm a little afraid that's something Game Freak would do. Kids are not as stupid as I believe Game Freak thinks they are. If they take the time to lay out the possible strategies for doubles and not just make it, hey, click this big button that says super effective on it, then they will be able to overcome the challenge. Pokemon is such a deep and complex game, but the main stories do such a terrible job of showing that off. There are so many cool mechanics like weather and spread moves and turn changing moves and position changing moves that they could be showing off in the main story. They introduce dozens of new moves and abilities in every generation that only have usage in the doubles format. I didn't even know what the move Quash did until this week because it literally has no purpose in singles. And there is a growing list of moves just like this one that I'm never going to touch. Remember when Galarian Weezing was revealed and a big selling point in this Pokemon was its new ability, Neutralizing Gas, which cancels out all abilities in the field and could potentially be huge for doubles? Well great, because that means absolutely nothing to me because I'm not a competitive player anymore. With each new iteration, it feels like the game is meant to be played in doubles. They have been balancing the game for doubles competitive play for a long time now, not singles. So why, after a decade of doubles competitive play, is the main story still almost entirely made up of single battles? It makes no sense if I'm being completely honest. Anyway, that's my rant. Thanks for making it to the end. The lesson is that Pokemon can be difficult if structured in the correct way, and that way already exists. They don't have to make a brand new battle system. And unfortunately, it is incredibly underused. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.